we have been hoodwinked. They got us and they got us good. So a friend of mine sent me a clip of a video from a segment that I often watch. The most recent one that I watched was Fat versus Fit. Is being fat a choice? And it was with women. This one I had seen pop up on my feed on YouTube, but I had not sat down to watch it. And she sent me a clip, and the clip was quite disturbing and alarming. Although it was mildly, it was very respectful in comparison to a conversation that would have been had with the women, because I did watch Trad Wives versus Feminists, and boy, was that one a wild ride. But the question came up, should men be the sole providers? Now, if you're not familiar with these segments, they often have 8 people, 4 from one side and 4 from the other side, always sides of an extreme, and they ask very polarizing questions, and they have these people come forth and speak on it. And so when that question came up, only one person agreed that men should be sole providers, and he came up, he gave his disclosures. He's of the Muslim faith. It is in him, and it is part of his belief system to be a sole provider. He understands that things may work differently in different households, but for him it is very important, and it is an expectation for him to be a provider. He also added that there are expectations that he has of his wife. He said, I'm not going to marry a woman that I don't think can take care of kids. I'm not going to marry a woman who can't keep a home. He didn't say that. I added that part because I don't think that he said that, but I added that. I'm going to say I added that. So after he said that, they asked for the people who disagreed to come forward. Now, what was scary about the people who disagreed, these men are poor. It was poor versus rich men. Now, a poor man, one of them earns $60,000 a year. And I'll get to that in a moment. A part of why we've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and tricked. So these men came forward, and there was a lot of, from my perspective, and I often say I don't give men advice, but I could not help but hear the underlying things that were happening in these conversations. And I've spoken about this before when we were reading The Boy Crisis, which is somewhere around here. We were reading The Boy Crisis, and there were some points in that book that brought up why provider men are stressed out and all of these things. And I bring up those perspectives not to say that there should not be such a thing as a man providing. I'm going to throw it out there and say I think homes work best when the man is the primary breadwinner. I think that homes work best when the woman is focused on her role as being a wife and a mother. I know that we are in modern times. Everybody has their own goals and aspirations. I know that that is not going to work for everybody, so don't think that I'm trying to condemn you to something, but I am saying that for the majority of people, I think that our lives will be more fulfilled if we practice contentment and if we practice operating out of our God-given roles. Yes, there will be things that happen. Your husband might go to work and break his back, and now all of a sudden you have to be the primary breadwinner. But I think that too often we use those extremes to live in reality. We say, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? What if it doesn't? Why are we gravitating from things that were originally designed for our well-being and that made sense? And we're going to get to that. So these men were saying things like, I just don't think that it is fair. I don't think that it is realistic. One of them said, I explained to the lady that I'm with, look, I'm never going to be a breadwinner because I want to be a teacher. I want to be an educator. To which I don't even think there's anything wrong with it. I think that he's living in reality. I think that he's being realistic, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with it. But what I think is wrong is this belief that comes with that I'm not going to be able to provide. The reason that we are not able to survive on one income in this society that we live in is because we are greedy. We are greedy and we consume too much, and we don't know how to make things work, and we always want what the next person has, and it becomes worse and worse and worse with the internet because everybody's always comparing something. Everybody wants what they don't have. Everybody's always trying to strive to have more than what they can afford. And not only do they strive for it, they bite the bullet and they get themselves into situations where they have more than what they can afford. Multiple cars, homes that they can't afford. With the homes come utilities, buying new clothes that they can't afford, paying for private school that they can't afford, paying for hobbies for their children that they can't afford, buying coffee every day that they cannot afford. And I mean cannot afford, like, yes, the money is there in your account today, but just because the money is in your account doesn't mean that you can afford that thing. And so that is a problem that is actually crippling us consumption, not even capitalism, because I talk all the time about how capitalism is a gift that allows anyone, anywhere to excel and to be successful and to create opportunity for themselves. Capitalism is not the problem. Your self-control is the problem, or your lack of self-control and your inability to stop consuming and buying things all the time. That is the issue. And so when we have this conversation, what we often don't talk about is how overconsumption and this feminist movement has worked against us, and we think that it's helping to push us forward, but it's actually setting us back as a society. And people will accuse you as a person who believes in more traditional practices and values of trying to set everyone back, when in reality it's these new movements that are actually setting us back. They're stressing us out more, and they're causing more of a divide. The new feminist movement is part of the reason that we don't even have villages anymore, and we don't look at it like that. We think that it's so liberating, but what is happening is all of this opportunity, all of this drive, all of this let's do better, let's level up, let's be a boss, let's do these things. And like I said, I'm not at all saying that you should not be. I am creating opportunity for myself, for my family, for my children. I am a visual representation of what it means to have a choice as a woman to do what it is that I'm doing. So I want y'all to not try to be like, well, no, I'm not saying that the act of feminism was a terrible thing. It was conceived with horrible intentions, but there are some things that are positive aspects of it. But that does not mean that we need to cling to the whole ideal of it, because it is actually destructive. And so going back to what I was saying about these men, one of them earned $60,000 a year. And here's the thing. People make all this stuff up about how it's not possible to do this and it's not possible to do that. $60,000 a year is a decent amount of money. You're not a rich man, but that's certainly not necessarily a poor man. It is a poor man if you make poor financial decisions. And I know this is going to sound really harsh, but I want people to understand that what I mean is we live in a time where poorer people, impoverished people have access to the same things as wealthy and rich people. What do I mean? A poor man and a rich man will both have the same iPhone. A poor man and a rich man can both go out to eat at a restaurant. A poor man and a rich man can both take their kids to the movies. A poor man and a rich man can both take their kids to the amusement park, can go on vacation, fill in the blank. Especially with credit, a poor man and a rich man can live the same types of experiences, just on different levels. And again, in me saying this, I'm not saying you're poor, you don't get to do anything, but I am saying that those isms and your desire to keep up with things and to carry facades and to live outside of what you can actually afford is crippling you, and it's causing you to live a life that is not satisfactory. It's causing you to live a life of discontentment. So, y'all, this is so much that can be said about this. So the first thing is, women are chasing after this baddie aesthetic. It's always something different, right? So even as a woman in my 30s, when I was in my 20s, I remember, like, at some point I was like, I gotta start dressing like an adult. Like, I'm a mom, and I'm cute, and I wear the clothes that like fit my frame, and it's it's cute, it's appealing, and all of these things, but like I have to start dressing my age. And the crazy thing is, it felt like weird because I felt like I was trying to be older than I was, but really I was just trying to act my age. But most people my age at the time were being influenced. So we're being influenced to dress like the baddie aesthetic or to dress a certain way, when really it's totally normal for us to dress however we want, and to dress in a way that is more modest if that's what we want to do, to dress in a way that is more appealing to us. But then it gets a rep of like, why are you dressed like that? Like, why are you? And even before people would say it to me, it was something that I was saying to myself because I felt like it was a thing. And that had more to do with the fact that I was chasing what society was doing, and I was chasing what was normal and popular at the time, rather than just being what was comfortable to myself. And so in doing that, I used to spend so much money on clothes. Like, my husband used to give me so much money to like buy clothes and stuff. And it's funny because in me doing that, those clothes came and came and went, because some days I would feel like I didn't have anything to wear, even though I had like a full closet full of things. But there would be times where I needed to dress differently and I didn't have what I needed, because most of my clothes were like urban streetwear, right? And that's just one example. So that would have been me abusing finances in a way that didn't need to be done. Like if I'm in TJ Maxx every week, even like shopping for the kids, shopping for me, shopping for this, some people would say, well, yeah, you need clothes. Well, yeah, the kids need clothes. Yeah, they need clothes, but they don't need clothes in all of these masses, because I can't tell you how many times I realized there were things that still had tags on them. There were things that had never gotten worn. And I will tell you now, with my third baby, he is so minimal. And you would think that I was crazy if I didn't explain this concept to you, but he only has like 20 pieces of clothing at a time, because I realized that with children that small, he's 2. With children that small, they cycle in the same clothes and then they grow out of them so quickly. So typically I just rotate things. As they begin to get too small, as he grows, I take them out of the rotation. I find somebody to give those clothes to, find a family to bless with those clothes, and then I rotate in what we need. And so he never has a whole bunch of stuff at one time. One, this keeps down what I have to manage for him. This also keeps down my laundry. And now my girls are starting to be the same way. They're welcome to shop for the things that they want. However, I also had conversations with them, and I showed them, because even when they had these full closets of clothes that I was buying for them, they would always wear the same things. And so when I started to allow them that freedom to choose what they wanted to wear for themselves, we had conversations about practicality. Like, sure, buy things that you like. Sure, buy things that you feel like fit you nice and you like it and it's comfy. But don't buy in excess, because I want you to understand that unless you really love that thing, you're not going to wear it. And they started to see it. I remember the last time we went shopping, both of them had this instance where they bought things that they really liked, but then they rarely wear it. And so I'll ask them, I'm like, not to condemn you, not to make you feel bad, but I really want you to pay attention to this. How many times have you worn this? How many times have you worn this? And so over time, they start to get it. And so now whenever they do go shopping for gaps in their wardrobe, whenever they do rotate things out of their wardrobe, they're very practical and like, oh, I need a pair of shorts. I need a couple pairs of shirts. I need some more shoes. I need this. I need that. And they get what they need. And when I tell y'all, my kids wear their clothes, they take very good care of their clothes. They wear their clothes. They're not deprived for anything. Anytime anything is too small, we are absolutely going to get more. But I have eliminated this ability for everyone in the house to just abuse resources for things that we don't need. So there is no more of that. And the reason I'm talking about these things is because I'm trying to make this connection that this man who earns $60,000, who does not believe that it is possible for him to be a sole provider, is under the disillusionment that you have to have new, better, more all the time. And then they're also not accustomed to a budget. So if you make $60,000 a year, you probably never see most of your money, because when it comes in, it's going out to bills, expenses, and whatever else. So most people, and this is something, somebody that I go to church with, we're in the same nonprofit organization. He's a State Farm agency owner, and we talk about finances, and he's actually doing something this weekend with the kids. And he was saying majority of people save last. They don't even take, like, if you make $5,000, they're going to spend whatever they need to spend: rent, mortgage, utilities, car note, insurance, all of these things. Oh, I got to get this for my kids. I got to pay for this. And then whatever's left, they're going to consider if they need to save something. Instead of saying, I have $5,000, let me figure out how much I want to save off top and then deal with the rest. And even that is a problem. And I'm saying that to say that, again, with this example of the man who earns $60,000, most families are not looking at what they have and strategizing before it leaves their hands. And so they're constantly in this cycle of paycheck to paycheck. And then most families are not practical about their approach to things. So it does not make you any less of a good parent to use discount stores, to use secondhand purchases, thrift stores, Goodwill, discount furniture, whatever. It is not a bad thing to take advantage of things like Facebook Marketplace, Poshmark, to find groups where things are being swapped around and given away for free, to find opportunities to do things for free for your family. And the crazy thing is, people with less money and resources available to them sometimes are ashamed to do this, while people who have a lot of money are very invested in keeping more of their money, so they will take advantage of these things. I remember watching this video about how people in families that have more money, there are sometimes opportunities for them to receive financial assistance from the government, and they're not ashamed of that. They will have grandma living in their house, and grandma gets some type of government funding, and they all use it. And I'm not saying that you should do that, but I am saying, like, there's no shame for them because they have money and they're interested in protecting their money. While people who have fewer resources, the thing that we think that we're interested in protecting our money, so we'll say things like, oh well, I can't provide, and my wife needs to go to work, and I need to go to work. And we don't think about how crazy that is, because even in wealthier families where both of them are going to work, it's not because they have to and the money is rough, right? It's like, if this woman is working and this man is working, by the time they figure all of these things out, they're doing something that they really love, and they're doing work that makes a difference. Whereas on the other end of it, where you're convinced that I can't provide, your wife is probably working just some entry-level position just so that things can get paid for. And although the money is coming in, everybody's quality of life is poor because the parents are not able to be fully present and engaged because they're tired, because they work really hard, and when they get home they cannot participate in being an active, engaged member of the family. The kids are halfway raising themselves, they're halfway being raised by school. And again, there are some more varying degrees to this, but I'm just painting this picture of what I mean. And so, pulling back a little bit from consumerism, because I feel like I already addressed that, I want to talk now about feminism and how this empowerment that has been encouraged is really the reason why we're also seeing more of these splits and more of these extremes. When we live in a society where women have so many options, and you know, feminism is the way, and woman power, and you can do whatever it is that you want to do, there's less reliance on the family unit, there's less reliance on the man, there's more hyper independence. I don't need you. And that's great, because now you don't have to have so many women who end up in situations where they can be taken advantage of because you need me. But it's bad because we wear that, and we as a society, like women, we wear that as a badge of honor. So instead of coming into a relationship and saying, you know, I'm a woman and I have these abilities and I can do these things, but I'm still willing to submit to my man, is I ain't gotta listen to you. Why would I listen to you? I could go over here and do this. I got a degree, I'm educated, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. And that's a terrible way to go into a family, because you can't have two people trying to seek a leadership position. And so whether or not the woman is able to do this, she makes more money, she whatever, you still have to come and fuse under the leadership of the man. And what makes that more difficult is when a woman has her own things and she can perform on her own. Because not all women who are like that have this type of attitude, but most women who are self-sufficient in that way, they have this attitude of, I don't have to listen to you, I'm not doing that. And we see that all the time. We see that in content, we see that in rants, we see it. So it's not something that's not happening. And so while we think that it's so great for advancement, it's actually something that creates this attitude and this adjustment and this divide between the man and the woman in the home. And it makes it difficult to coexist, because again, a woman is less willing to want to like submit and come under a man if I can do it all by myself. I can do it all for myself. And we know you can do it all for yourself because you were doing it all for yourself before you met him. So there's no need for you to come into this relationship with this man and compete. And so that aside, there's also this entitlement where it's like, going back to what the man said about, he has expectations like, yes, I'm going to provide for my family, I'm going to love my woman, I'm going to give her everything that she needs, but I also want a woman who can take care of a home and who can take care of my children. There is this shame of, that's all you do, you just stay home with the kids. And we let that get to us. And it's really one of the most honorable things that you can do, because it's, one, it's a big sacrifice, but two, it's something that is going to reward your family long term. It's something so beautiful about never having to miss anything with my children, never having to choose between work and my children. And I've been in both situations, and I've been in situations where I was on somebody's job, or like I was at school so that I can get into this career. And I remember like missing things for my kids because I was at school, or missing things for my kids because I was at work and I couldn't get the time off, or having to choose when I'm going to take time off, or if I'm going to take time off because my babies are sick and I'd rather be here with them, taking care of them, than going to my job. And now I have to ask for permission and I have to do all of these things. And somebody's going to have to do that if you're working a job. So again, please hear what I'm saying and don't try to pick apart the argument. Listen to what I'm saying overall. Somebody's going to have to do that. But imagine the situation where the entire family can sacrifice. Okay, you have this 60,000, 70,000, 80,000, and it's one income. I had this conversation before where there's some discomfort that might come with that. Maybe you don't need 2 cars, because if you're living on one income, there are certain things that need to be sacrificed for you to be able to do this and to do it effectively. And I firmly believe that if a family wants to have one income, one parent staying home raising the children, one parent staying home taking care of the home, whatever, it is possible, but we are unwilling to take the steps to do so. And so what does that look like? It looks like cutting bills. It looks like cutting expenses. Is it the end of the world to have one car for the whole family? No. Is it mildly inconvenient? Yeah. But who cares? And the only reason you care about that is because it is normal for homes to have multiple cars. It's normal for homes to have 2 cars, one for each of the parents. And then as the kids get older, they all get their own car too. So it is something that is like, it's almost like a quiet shame to have to share a car with your spouse. But that is something that would make it possible for you to live this life. And some people are like, well, that's just too much. That's just too much. But honestly, the less stress that you put on your family, the less stress that you put on everyone overall, the better it can be. Ideally, in this situation of compromise and giving up things and living within our means, it is going to be very important that there's a lot of appreciation and gratitude there, right? But what we also find is it is difficult because there's also this arrogance in our culture from both the men and the women. And so if you're like, I don't care, that's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to take care of me. He's supposed to be like this. He's supposed to be like that. And you don't do anything in return. You don't show up in your relationship. That makes it easier for him to want to be like, well, I don't want to take care of her. Like, no, I don't want to do that because I feel like I'm being taken advantage of and she doesn't appreciate me. And then similarly, as a man who is just, well, I pay for everything. I don't have to do anything extra. I don't have to show up in this way. And you're not showing up emotionally for your wife. You're not being there for her physically. Like, you're there physically, but you're not there as far as like helping and being present as a father and being present in your home and helping to take care of your home and making sure that the foundation is there. Then of course she's going to feel slighted and she's going to be like, well, no, I don't want to stay home because I feel like a housemaid. And so there's also that aspect of it. But the purpose of me saying all of this is we really, like, they have done a number on us in convincing us that these things are impossible and convincing us that it's the best thing for everybody, the parents, to go to work and just leave their children in a facility for 8 hours per day. And even with that, I will tell you as a homeschool parent, it does not take 8 hours a day to educate your children. It takes a fraction of that. And it also is worth mentioning that really school is just daycare for your children to go, for your children so that you can go off to work. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but it's the truth. It does not take that long to educate your children. And then when we think about the things that are being taught to our children, is it really necessary for us to go as far as algebra, calculus, and all these trigonometry, advanced math classes when most of these children are not going to use that? Or is it better for us to have a generalized learning system? Because before we had schools, we were learning everything in Sunday school. We were learning arithmetic, basic math, reading and writing, and things that were functional for us to go into society. Most people on average do not use advanced level math, advanced level sciences in their day-to-day. So most people have wasted a large majority of their time in grade school, from kindergarten to high school, learning generalized things that everybody went into and not specified studies. And then they go on to college, relearn those things. Some of them are still general studies, and then they isolate and go into whatever their field is, as opposed to teaching children to be well-rounded in all of these things. And I'm getting a little carried away and discussing more than what I wanted to, but I'm saying that also to add the fact that we have this really disillusioned idea of what it means to educate our children, this disillusioned idea of what it means to live, because part of the reason that we exhaust ourselves too is for things. Like, we work to pay bills. We work to pay for vacation. We work to pay the car note. We work to be able to have these things. I work so hard so that my family can have this. And those things all fade away, and then we all get older, and it's normal, and we pass that cycle on. Nobody's really living. And because we all work so hard, there's never or rarely any opportunity for people to find the things that they're good at, that they truly enjoy, and that they are passionate about, and to be able to lean into those things. But even going back to what I was saying, a man who is in his right mind and who is a healthy, God-fearing man, he is going to work because it is honorable for him to work, and work feels good. Work feels productive. A man should work. And that's not to say that women should not work, but what I'm saying is, it's not absolutely necessary for a man and a woman to go to work the entirety of their lives and to retire that way. Like, there may be times in your relationship where both of you have to work because you're figuring some things out. There may be times where one of you is working more than the other. There may be times when you switch those roles. But what I'm saying is, overall, one, it is false that a family cannot survive on one income. And one of the other things that is worth mentioning here is that there are low income families who are doing it. Very, very low, impoverished. And they're doing it because they have to. So to say that that is not possible when you have more money than these impoverished individuals is simply not true. And when I say they're doing it because they have to, is because they factor in all of the cost, and they're like, well, if both of us go to work and we're paying for childcare, somebody's going to work just to pay for childcare. Why don't I just stay home? And so this is not something that is impossible. It is just something that we're so entitled and we're so accustomed to having these lifestyles that we're not willing to sacrifice and to change and to be uncomfortable in the reality that we have. And really, it's not even a discomfort, it's a blessing, because we moan and complain about things sometimes, but the things that force us to slow down and to live more simply end up being the things that are so much more rewarding. And I say this as a person, like I said, I've experienced all of these things. And the one thing that I can say is, I wish I had been living this life sooner. Even with resources or not with resources, I wish that I had been living a more slow and intentional life, and that I had been actively present and like still and paying attention to life, because life happens and then it's, oh, they grow up so fast, and then you have the memories, and then you look back and it's like, dang, I spent that much time working, I spent that much time doing this, I spent that much time doing this, and you miss out on those little moments, those little core memories, and you spend your life rushing through life, all because of the lie that is, we all have to work so hard, and it's not possible for us to live this life. And we all have to give it our all, and we all have to hustle, grind, and we have to raise up these children so that they can hustle, and grind. And I know some people are going to listen to this and you're going to miss entirely what I'm saying, and I'm okay with that, because I feel like I'm saying it as clearly as I can. And I'm not saying that this is the only way all the time, but I am saying that I'm tired of seeing people say that it is not a possibility, when indeed it is. It is impossible when we don't want to make the life changes to do it. And just like I say about everything, when you really want to do something, you're going to figure out the way that will make it work. And so most of us are so accustomed to living in our excuses. I want to start a business, but I don't have any money, so I'm not going to start the business. As opposed to, I want to start a business with this, and this is what I have available to me. All I have is a camera. I don't have no money. I just know how to talk about the skill set that I have and to help people. Not knowing that that is the thing that's going to turn your business into more. Not knowing that that is a starting point. I want to go and buy this house, but I don't have any money, so I'm just not even going to worry about it. Okay, are we not going to try to save money? Are we not going to try to look for resources that are going to help us to get closer to the house? So same thing. Oh yeah, I would love to take care of my family, but it's just not possible. I would love to do it on one income, but it's not possible, so we're not going to do that. As opposed to, okay, me and my wife are both working right now, but we're going to figure out a game plan to make this work for us. Her income is this, my income is this. If we were to let her stop working, we would lose this much in our income. We need to look at how that's going to impact our finances. So it's not impossible. It's a lie from the pits of hell that it's impossible. And again, I'm not saying that you have to do that. I think, like some of the men said in the video, you do what works for you, right? You do what makes sense for you and your family. But it is not impossible. And we have to stop lying and saying that it is. We need to look at the things that are causing us to believe that it is impossible. We need to look at our practices as a whole, and we need to start dissecting those things so that we can have this conversation about how to be able to do it, and not just that it's impossible. Even if mom wants to work part-time, even if these changes need to be made, even if we downsize our home, because that's another thing. People are like, well, I don't want to live in a smaller house. Well, sometimes that's what you have to do. And I think that if we really absolutely, like, if you took a financial blow unintentionally, unplanned, people make adjustments. And so let me say this. Let's say both parents are working. If y'all both get laid off and now you're living off of savings, all of the things that you're unwilling to do in order to adjust your life to have one income, you're going to be forced to do it anyway, which tells you that it is possible. But people don't like to talk about that because they're like, well, I don't want to be living like that. So say that. I don't want to live like that, but it's not impossible, because I promise you, everything does not have to be bought brand new. Everything does not have to be the biggest, the baddest, the latest. Everything doesn't even need to be brought into your home. We are so accustomed to just having so much available to us. Like I said, this constant state of consumption. We get things, buy things. Half the time don't even use them. So like, we're not even living in a practical lifestyle. But another thing that proves that this is a possibility is that people lose their jobs and pivot all the time. People get laid off and pivot all the time. People go through all of their savings and they figure out a new way to make it work. So it is a possibility, but we only associate the possibility with worst case scenario. So we would only consider downsizing and living more simply and getting rid of one of the cars and changing these expenses and changing the way that we shop and changing our habits if we absolutely had to. But if you really thought about it and you started to embrace those things, I promise your quality of life will be so much better. Having the ability to not have to work so hard so that you can earn back some more free time takes off so much more stress, and it trickles down to everybody in the family. Dad is less stressed out, mom is less anxious, children are happier. And so that's all that I want to say on that. I invite y'all to have more unpacking of the conversation. But I really do think that if we were more practical and not so dismissive about everything, I think we would come to see that it absolutely is possible. I personally believe that people just don't want to do it. I think men don't want to be providers. I think that women don't want to bear the responsibility of being the matriarchs of their homes. Everybody just wants to go out and make money so that they can be absolved from the responsibility of taking care of their family, so that they can be absolved from the responsibility of caring for and loving their husbands. And men want to be absolved from the responsibility of bearing the weight of being a protector and a provider. And the further we get away from being a people who love our Lord and Savior, the further we get away from God's will and design for our lives, I mean, the more we find ourselves in these predicaments where we're living in ways that were never designed for us. We were never designed to work this hard. We were never designed to be like slaves to our lifestyles, slaves to capitalism. Yes, everyone should have everything that they need to sustain themselves. But like I said, we just overcomplicate it. The more tech, the more equipment, and the more things that come out and they dangle in front of us, the more we buy into those things and the more enslaved we become, when really you can afford to downsize. If your house has 5 TVs, you can survive on one income. But I think I've said enough on the topic. I will see y'all in the next video.